Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Custom Carving and Epoxy UK. Hope you're all doing well. And I want to do another frog, and I'll tell you why. It's been a little while since I did one, but I found these this little jar of like rocks. I suppose they're meant to be sort of unpolished gemstones. And I thought it'd be interesting to see what they would look like inside the frog. So I'm going to do another frog. The plan is hopefully those gemstones will all stay sort of in this back area. Do a couple of cool designs with UV resin using the sort of raindrop method. And then fill the whole thing with clear resin and a little bit of interference powder. So it'll be interesting to see how we get on. So the first thing I need to think about is the eyes. Now, I like to make my own eyes. As long as you've got one of these standard jewellery moulds, I've found that the ones that fit the best are these tiny little circles here. So you've got to remember, when you're doing a frog or a reptile, they've got reptilian eyes. So for me, they look a bit strange if you put a standard dot in as the eye. So I'm gonna create those eyes first of all using UV resin. Then I've got another little experiment planned with UV resin and chameleon powder to create that raindrop effect. And then I'm gonna be using 2-part epoxy to fill it. So for those that haven't done one of these frog molds before, just so you know, they take around about 4 ounces of resin in total, but I'm only going to mix up 3, I think, and see where I go because of the fact I'm going to be putting these stones in, which I think will take up about 1 ounce of that resin, so we'll find out as we go. So first thing I'm going to do is the eyes, and all I'm going to do for this is get the tiniest bit of UV resin. Literally a dot like that. I'm going to add a little bit of black alcohol ink. So I'm hoping I can get less than a drop out of this bottle. Like that. Mix it with a toothpick. I can never find my toothpicks when I want them. I don't know if anybody else has got the same. There we go. So just going to use a toothpick for this because with the eyes I'll probably want 3 different colours in there, and I'll show you why in a second. So, and even though they're tiny, I think it gives you a really cool effect if you actually UV the eyes in before you actually fill it with resin. So I'll say that was just black alcohol ink. This is UV resin, just mixing the two together. Now you have got to remember that you can't use black pigments in a thick consistency when it comes to UV resin, but if you do it in thin layers, it should, and I say should, still cure. So just going to carry on mixing that to make sure it's thoroughly mixed, because all I'm going to need is literally a dot that is probably that sort of size for each eye, so not a lot at all. So I'm going to find on the mould where it is, and I'm literally going to put a dot in the center and bring it up, hopefully, if I can get in there. And sometimes it just takes a second to drop down, but then once you've got it, you're good to go. And you want them both going in roughly the same direction. Doesn't matter, you can always move them around when you're placing them. And you want it hopefully to go across the whole of the eye. Now you're going to have to time it pretty well here with the UV light, otherwise you're going to lose that slip because it's all going to go down the mould and form a dot. So I'm just getting my lamp ready. I'm not going to be using it yet, but I just want to make sure it's set up and ready to go. And then you'll see I have to pull out those lines again before I actually do put the lamp on it. And if you notice, I'm using this silicone mould just to protect the bloom underneath from the previous video, so apologies about that. But this way I can get more than one project done at once. So my UV lamp is plugged in and working, which is great. Now I'm just going to pull those lines out again, so that I know that I've got sort of that slit effect that you see on lizards reptiles and frogs. And then this is how quick you've got to be. So literally I'm going to put that on there and carry on pulling them out and then push the button. So I've got that complete black line, hopefully, going. There we go. And then it doesn't work. When you work with resin, expect the unexpected. There we go. So just as it's curing, because it's so thin, it should still cure, even though I've gone with black. And then what I can do is just add another drop, like that. And same for the other one, just to make sure I've got that slit. And then just letting that cure. And hopefully these are going to look really cool. But it just shows you don't need to buy these ready done ones. And you know what? No other frog in the world will have the same eyes because you've made them. So now, because the colour scheme I'm going with this frog is going to be predominantly blue, you see what I mean? You've got that slit effect. I'm just going to cure them the other side as well. But yeah, if you can see, we've just got those two lines at the minute. And it doesn't take long to cure, so that is pretty much cured now, even though it's black. So I want him to have blue eyes. But again, I only need the tiniest bit of UV for this, because I still want to have a bit of a white in the background. So I've just literally put that drop down. I'm going to use this teal coloured chameleon powder from Let's Resin. And I'm just going to get a decent amount on the end of my toothpick. Put it on there. Because I want it to be quite concentrated for this. And then just mix it into that resin. And although it's not going to be very transparent, because I'm going to put it on in a thin layer, it should, hopefully, still cure. So I'm going to put a tiny drop, trying to get it in the centre of each eye. Just until it just pretty much goes past the black that we've just cured. And don't worry too much, it doesn't have to be perfect. But I just want to get enough on there to, I suppose, go either side of that black that we've just done. So I put another little bit there. And another tiny drop there. And that should give us a bit of a blue sparkle for his eyes. So now I'm going to cure that as well. From the underside first of all. And then I'll do the top. Just a quick 10-20 seconds each side. And hopefully that should just give us like a little blue slither either side of the black line that I've just put in. And then I'm just going to cure it from the top as well. And I have found with these frogs, do you know the more detail you put in, the better they look, so it is really worth putting that effort in. So they're cured. So if you look there, we've got that blue. And if we look from the other side, you can just about see the black and the blue now. And now I'm just going to do a final layer to fill them up of white. So what I'm going to use for that again is just a little tiny drop of UV. Doesn't need to be a lot, but this is going to hopefully fill it up. And have I got any white out? No, but I've got some white sinker actually from Let's Resin, which is an alcohol ink, but let's have a look and see if it creates that effect. And I actually don't mind mixing it a little bit with a tiny bit of this teal. See, that's more alcohol than resin. So I'm just going to add a drop more resin to it, because again, too much alcohol and it just won't cure. But I don't want it to be fully opaque anyway, so that's why I just thought that white sinker might give me a whitey effect. There we go. So it's almost like white and cloudy mixed in. And then, let's have a look and see. Yeah, that's still going white, so that's good. And I'm just going to completely fill those up now with this. And then hopefully it's going to cure. And then we'll have 2 eyes ready to put in the mould. And then we can move on to the next step. But I want to completely fill these this time. And I'm going to cure them for just a tiny bit longer than what we have been doing. Not going to water cure them because they're going straight into the frog mould anyway. I just want to make sure both of these are full to the top, like that. And then I'm going to cure it again from the underside first. I don't know why, but I just find when you're doing opaque colours pretty much, it seems to cure better that way. So just going to give it a quick 20-second blast initially on that side. He says I need to find a new power bank, I think, because this one is playing up every now and then. Oh, look at that. That really is playing up. There we go. That's better. And I'm just going to give it a blast, 20 seconds each side, and then hopefully we're going to have 2 cured eyeballs ready to put in to Mr. Frog. And this excess UV resin that you've got on your mat, all you need to do is cure it and then it will just peel off. So always keep old sort of coaster molds just for this, you know, it's really useful. So that's cured that side. Now I'm just going to cure the other side. And hopefully, if it cures, I think 60 seconds should be enough, but then hopefully we can glue the eyes in and that is stage 1 done. If you've not already as well, please do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference. We've just approaching 6,600 subscribers now, so hopefully that means that some of you are liking the content that we're doing. And if you want more content, please like and subscribe, because as the channel grows, it allows us to do more. So please take 2 seconds, tap that button just there, and give us a like and subscribe. Let's see, they're not fully cured yet. I can still see a little bit of movement in them, so I'm just going to give them a little bit longer. And whenever you're using sort of opaque colours, you're going to have to cure it for longer than you'd think. But as long as you get a shell for this, you know, it'll be fine. You don't have to worry too much, but you do still want it to be fully cured through. And if you've never worked with UV resin before, that's where it's very different to two-part epoxy. You put any opaque colours in, it struggles to cure them. And the reason for that is the light just can't get through. But I think we're getting there with them. You've just got to use your judgment. And what I tend to do is just tap it with a toothpick or something, which tells me when it's hard, you know it's pretty much cured. And I have had a few accidents where something hasn't been fully cured. I've put it on a windowsill, it's leaked all over, and I've had to re-gloss the whole windowsill. So do be careful if you're trying sort of opaque colours with UV resin. You see, they're not fully cured yet. There's still just a tiny bit of movement there, which is not what I'm wanting. So what I might actually do, just to make sure I've got that completely hard shell, is just put a little dab of clear on both, like that, and like that, because that's going to be hidden inside the frog anyway. And then that should just make sure that I've got a seal over those eyes. That will definitely be 100% cured. So there's no risk of any UV resin leaking anywhere. So just a quick 20 seconds and hopefully they'll be done. And what I'm going to try with these rocks, because I know already before I add any epoxy or anything like that to them, there's going to be loads of bubbles created because they're tiny little rocks. So I'm actually going to try for the first time, once I've got those in here, putting the mould directly in my resin as debubbler and see if that gets rid of those bubbles. Because the last thing I want, if I'm going to spend some good amount of time on this frog, is, there we go, they're cured, I'm happy with those. Pop them out the mould. And hopefully we've got two pretty cool frog eyes. Again, they're not perfect, but I'm happy with those. And it means I can get rid of that mold. So again, don't know if you can see those, but cool little tiny, I think they look like frog eyes with that blue coming through as well. So this is the fiddly bit when you're dealing with frogs and you're using real eyes. Or any other eyes for that matter. It's getting them in the right way round, because you want them to both be the same way round, and the eye molds are right inside that head. This is where a pair of tweezers really helps. So literally all I'm going to do is get a dot of UV resin, make sure my light's ready, and try and cure it in there. So I've switched my light on already. And I'm going to put a dab, literally a tiniest bit on the front of that eye. Use my tweezers and try and get it in place inside that mould without getting UV resin everywhere. And one thing you can do once you push it in is just have a look and see where around your eye is facing. I want this to be slightly upwards, I think, and this is the real fiddly bit, because they are so tiny and the UV resin makes them so slippy. But once they're in, they tend to be okay. You've just got to play around with it until you get them the way that you want. This guy's actually facing the wrong way. I want both eyes slightly facing forwards and upwards if I can get that look. So that's okay, I just need it moving a little bit to the side. So again, just using those tweezers, manipulate the eye to where you want it. And I think I'm happy with that positioning. So I'll just cure it in place. 20 seconds either side should do it. There we go. And I have got the tiniest drop of UV resin next to it, which I'm going to try and take off. In fact, I probably could have gone a size up actually with these eyes, but we'll see. So as you can see, once they're cured, they stay in there, which is what you want. And I've got one eye that is in there now. Now for the other one. And again, you want them to be similar. They don't have to be exactly the same, but if you've got one that's going horizontal and the other one vertical, it will just never look right. So again, just be careful. Try and manipulate it the way that you want. Get it in the eye socket first, and then look at which way it's facing, and then just manipulate it round until you've got them both roughly matching, and I think that's about right. And then just cure it again for 10-20 seconds either side. and it actually creates a cool little shadow effect on the eyes when you fill it with the epoxy. So if you can see, there's one eye there and one eye there, and I'm hoping they're both facing the same way. Just looking now, I think it's close enough. So that is my eyes in, which is good. Right, now again, before I go into the rocks, the next bit I'm going to try is I want to create some patterns just where the rocks aren't going to be, with some UV resin, and I want to do the toes as well in a slightly darker sort of look. So again, I'm just going to use exactly the same as what I've used on the eyes, and you can see there, because some of the light's gone over, it's actually cured. A little bit of this. Again, it's, oh, that's probably a little bit much. And again, just mix it around until it's all nice and thoroughly mixed. Hopefully it'll still cure. We'll find out in a minute. But I want quite a bit of this because I'm going to be trying to put some raindrop patterns in as well. And I do genuinely think with these frogs, the more details you can put in, the better they look. And I've had some amazing effects so far, so hopefully this one comes out good as well. So there we go, just mixing that in. And I think that should be enough. So all I'm going to do now is each toe is put a drop in. Like that, and it's easy to do 1 foot at a time. And actually on these back feet, there is actually a tiny little toe that most people miss just there. So again, just filling it up so that will create those little toes in the finished product. And then I'm going to cure 1 foot at a time for around about 30 seconds, just so it keeps it in there before we actually pour the resin. I'm just trying to keep it away from the mix that I've mixed up as well, so it doesn't accidentally cure that. Again, always try and do it from both sides. That way you know it will cure, that way you know it will stay in place, hopefully. And then what I'm going to do is, once I've got all of these done anyway, and the patterns, I'm going to cure the whole thing just for about 60 seconds on each side, just to make sure that all of the UV resin is definitely cured. But hopefully we'll get some cool effects with this guy. And again, don't forget that 5th little toe just in there. Because I've seen on most people's frogs, they don't realise there is that little toe there. So it is there, guys, use it if you can. And there we go, happy with that. And I'm going to fast forward while I do the other two, because that's going to be exactly the same process for you. Okay, that's the toes in, if you can see. Now what I'm going to do is put a little dot in each elbow. So there's an elbow there, one there, at the end of each leg as well. So again, exactly the same process. I'm just trying to get it exactly in the elbow. like that, if you can see. And I just want one drop, nothing more than that. And then if you look, that drop just stays in that elbow. A little bit finicky, but when you get the hang of it, you'll be okay. And the great thing is with the UV resin is it naturally wants to shift anyway into that elbow because of the dent in the mold. And then you just cure it for about 10 seconds, I would say, and then it should stay in place. There we go, so that's both of those. Now I've got this one and this one on the back legs to do. And there we go, so that is all of those elbows and knees put in now. And now I'm just going to put a few little lines going down these little parts of the leg, and all I'm going to do, put the UV resin in and just drag it down. And you've got to make it symmetrical, so whatever you do one side, you've got to try and get exactly the same on the other side, otherwise it will look strange when you're finished. And I'm not going to go overboard with this frog, but I just want it to have a few standout points before we add the clear. And take your time, there's no rush. The longer you take, the neater it'll look. As I say, try and get it as symmetrical as you can, so that both sides, when you're done, will look equal. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but because nothing in nature ever looks perfect in my mind, but just get it as close as you can to looking the same on both sides. And don't forget to cure in between, because if you do, it'll all just slide down the mold. And hopefully this is going to create a pretty cool effect. Might not, and it might look terrible. But again, you don't know unless you try these things. The great thing about working with resin is sometimes it's just about having a play, finding out what works and what doesn't. There we go. So if you can see through the mold, we've now got those two legs done there. And I think I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to add another little dot just here. And I'm going to try and get this more like a raindrop effect. Again, just by pulling it down and creating more of a circle at the top. And then curing it. And you can take as little time or as much time as you want on this. I just find it's another cool way to add an effect to a frog, and it makes them more unique. So that's that side in. Now I'm just going to flip it round and do exactly the same on the other side to keep it looking symmetrical, hopefully. And then I've got one more place where I think I'm going to add some, and then I think that will be ready for the next stage. And don't forget, if you make a mistake, the great thing is until you've cured it, it just wipes off because it's just UV resin. I'm just going to see if I can maneuver that to make it look more equal. There we go, happy with that. So that's that side done and that side. Now I just want to do a similar sort of raindrop effect, but actually on his head, if I can get it in there, which will be a pain, but I think it will add to the effect, because hopefully the rocks will stay in the back and not in the head. Again, it's a little bit finicky to get it in the head, but I think it does add something when you've done. If you can see, he's just got a line down his head now of little dots. And then I think detail wise, I'm happy with that. Just gonna add one more bit on the back actually, in between these two back legs just here. And there we go, that should be, I think I'm happy with those bits. And then the rest can just be filled with these rocks and with the two-part. So there we go. So you can see all of that design through the mould. And what I'm going to do before I add these rocks is just make sure that centre bit is clear and clean. Because the last thing I want when I do this is for a little bit of glitter or something to be right in the centre or something like that I don't want to be in the piece. So all I use is a wet wipe, wrap it around your finger and just go around all of that inside, making sure it's clean. And it should be, because I cleaned the mould after I made the last frog in this, but I just want to be extra careful that it is. So there we go. Now what I'm going to try and do is put the rocks in first, where I want them, then I'm going to mix the epoxy, I'm going to put it in the bubble removal machine, put the rocks in there, put it back in the bubble removal machine, so any that are trapped in there from the rocks hopefully will come back out, and then pour in the rest, and hopefully that will work. So again, no particular order because I want this to be random. I'm just going to grab these out and pile them into that centre bit. In fact, where's my tweezers gone? Never find anything you want when you're recording. No, I don't know where they've gone. Ah, there. So again, no particular order, I'm just going to grab them out and put them in. If there is a nice one for the centre, keep one central like that. And then just, I want quite a lot in here so it completely covers that centre. And I probably would have been better pouring some resin in first actually. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to mix the resin first, just so there's at least a thin layer on there. So all I'm going to do is mix up, I'm going to go with 3.5 ounces just to be safe, because if I do get any spare resin I can always put it in a separate mould. So I'm going to do that now, mix it up, put it in the bubble removal machine and then come back. There we go, so that's just had 5 minutes in the bubble removal machine, and that's why you use it, that gets crystal clear. Now I'm just going to pour the tiniest part in the centre, really slowly. Up to about there, just so I know the rocks are actually in some resin. Before I continue with the next stage, and just wipe your cup, otherwise you get resin all over your workspace. So now, again, no particular order, I'm just going to place these rocks in that resin, hopefully getting a good variety of different colours and shapes and sizes. You think there's a little bit of shell in there, I don't know. And then, as I say, I'm going to add a little bit more resin. And then put it in the bubble removal machine again. And these are an absolute pain to get with tweezers. As you can see, no particular order. I just want to make sure that the whole of that back is covered, and some of them are even dropping in, so they're deciding where they're going. Again, this is just an experiment. I don't know if it's going to work or if not, but there's only one way to find out with resin, and that's to try it. And some of these, are really cool little natural sort of gemstone rocks, and I'm hoping that you'll still be able to see the different colours and effects when it's done. Again, I'm not going crazy, but I do want a good layer in there. And we've got different whites, yellows, there's even a little bit of orange actually in some of these. A couple of pinks and purples as well. And it'd be really interesting to see what these cure like. Hopefully I've not just wasted a load of resin and a load of semi-precious unpolished gemstones. But there we go. And I think I'm happy. Maybe one more. Get a couple of these small ones from the bottom. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. He says, and then he puts another one in. Looks pretty full. Maybe one more just there. And then what I'm going to do is pour the tiniest bit of resin over it. And in fact, there's a little tiny rock that's just gone into the head, which I didn't want. There we go, moved. Because I wanted to keep them all in this central bit, if possible. And if you're doing what I'm doing using tweezers, make sure you wipe them after if you're going to want to use them again. So again, just going to pour the tiniest bit of resin over these rocks. At this stage, just so it just about covers them. And now what I'm going to do is put the frog itself in the bubble removal machine for 5 minutes. Hopefully that way any of the bubbles that are lodged underneath, trapped underneath, should get released. And I am going to fast forward this, but I just want you to see, I don't know if it will have an effect or not, but if there is any bubbles trapped in there, how effective this machine is at getting them out. And it's the first time I've actually put a mould directly in there, so it'd be interesting to see. Do you think we're going to get any bubbles? And if you want one of these bubble removal machines, there is a discount code in the description, which is ccuk, which will get you 15% off anything on the Resiners website. And I just saw one or two come to the surface then and pop. Another one there at the back. Oh, another few. So hopefully, as I say, this will get rid of any of the trap bubbles in there. And it's doing its job actually. So it seems to work with moulds as well as the cups of resin. And hopefully this will ensure that I don't get tiny little air bubbles everywhere, because it's the first clearish frog I've actually tried as well. But look at those bubbles. And again, this resin was crystal clear when we poured it in. But again, I just knew that by adding the rocks it would add an awful lot of air, so that's why I'm trying to get as much of it out as possible before I add the rest of the resin. So, do you think it's going to work? Let me know in comments. And what I'm going to do to the rest of the resin before I add it is just add some blue iridescent powder, so that it's not a completely transparent frog, but there's just those little shimmers of blueness going through it. But look at those bubbles. And had I not have put it in the machine, they probably would have stayed trapped in the resin somewhere and completely ruined the finish. But there we go, I've learnt something as well, that you can put the moulds directly in. There we go, that's been 5 minutes. So hopefully what you'll see is as I remove the silicone tab at the back, the rest of those bubbles should disappear. Like that. So now I'm just going to take him out and then we'll add the rest. And there we go, hopefully that has removed most of those bubbles. Just going to get any off the surface as well that are there. But hopefully that will make a huge impact on the finished product. So really happy with that. Now what I'm going to do to the rest of this resin before I pour it in is just add some of this blue iridescent nail powder that I got from Temu. Hopefully that will give it a nice blue shimmer all the way through, and we'll get a really cool effect. But don't know, not done it before. I'm going to put a decent heap in as well, so because I do want it to have that blue shimmer effect. So probably about that much, I think. Touch more. There we go. I think that's enough. And then I'm going to mix it really slowly, because again, the last thing I want to do, I'm going to all this effort to get the bubbles out, is add more. I just want to make sure it's all completely mixed in and there's none of that white powderiness left. And hopefully it will give us a blue shimmer on the frog when he's done. And so going a lot slower than I normally would mixing resin. I just think I probably put a little bit too much in there, but we will see. That is actually very white, so yeah, it'll be interesting. I probably could have put half as much in, but we'll see what he turns out like. So I'm just going to be really careful here when I'm pouring. I'm going to pour it onto my stick and hopefully eliminate the chance of any of the bubbles. I'm just going to completely fill the mould. See what happens. So there's a few powdery bits where I didn't mix it properly there, so I'm not completely happy with that, but it's too late now. So we'll just see if that gives us a different contrasting effect. And what I might do is still try and get rid of those. Right, so what I'm going to do now we're about 3/4 of the way, is try and go over each foot. Just using this stick, because the feet are the hardest bits to fill. And I do want to make sure that the toes are all filled. And it makes it easier as you fill the mould for that resin to just be able to come up to the top and those toes. And hopefully we're not going to get a transparent effect here because I think I put too much of the powder in, but I think we'll still get a cool effect. There we go, now I should be able to fill the rest up. And let me know what you think in comments. Is this going to work? Or is it going to be a disaster? That is the question. If it's your first time doing a frog as well, these back bits you don't need to fill. They're actually there to help you demold the piece. And I'm not sure if I've done enough resin here, which I thought I had, but we'll see in a second. Or maybe just enough, I think. It's a little bit on the short side, that, for me. Let's see if I can scoop any more out. Yeah, not completely happy with that. I might have to mix up a tiny bit more. I think it's because I only did 3.5 rather than the 4. And I haven't put as many rocks in as I was gonna. Or do I just persist and get as much out as I can? That is a tiny bit under, but I mean a tiny bit, so I'm just gonna mix up quickly a little tiny bit of resin in this cup. It's probably not the best thing to do mid-project, but I think it just needs that extra ½ ounce. So again, just going to mix it through. With it being such a tiny amount, I'm not too fussed about putting it in the bubble removal machine, but I'm loving the effect that I'm getting from this iridescent powder. And again, I'm just using the powder what's still in the cup, mixing this tiniest bit. To make sure that it's all full. There we go, so that's now better. That one looks a lot better. That one's full. That one's full as well. There we go. So it just took that tiniest little bit. But I would say he is now full. And now I've got a tiny bit spare. Wouldn't you know it? Where's my teddy bear mould? I normally keep that around here deliberately because it's one of my favourites to use up some spare resin in. In fact, no, I'm going to use this one. My little seahorse mould. And actually, I'm going to try and get these baby ones filled as well. Now, these are an absolute pain to fill. You want to concentrate on the head and the tail with these. I think these will look actually really cool in this translucent blue. And there should be enough to do both. But you want to make sure that tail is really full. Alright, so there's that. And I have got the tiniest bit left. Have I got a tiny mould? Have I got a tiny mould? Let's have a look. There's probably not enough for a teddy in that one. So let's have a look in my mould drawer. Something small and tiny. Always keep spare moulds near your workstation for this very reason. See if I can move that along, because again it's got to be reasonably flat. Let's just put it at the side here. Fill this jigsaw puzzle piece up. I've not used that one before. And then what I'll do once I've used up this spare resin, just go over the top with a torch to get any bubbles that are there. And then we leave him for 24 hours. Never waste any resin, it's too expensive to waste. That's why I quite like those little stud earring molds you get as well, because even for the tiniest drops, you can probably get a few pairs of those filled. Just from your spare bits. There we go. So I've got 4 little, probably kid-sized pendants I would say, that I've managed to fill as well. Just adding that last drop there. I think I've actually overfilled the frog now, but there we go. So now all I'm going to do is just use my torch in case there are any surface bubbles on it. And hopefully 24 hours time we will have a cool effect. What do you think? Let me know. But if you've liked the content, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel, and we're going to demold these tomorrow, as well as there will be a bloom video coming out tomorrow as well, because I've done another 3D bloom. So hopefully this guy works out. Let me know what you think in comments, and I'll see you on the demold. Hey guys, welcome back. It is the next day and it is time for demold. So these I'm expecting to be slightly soft because it's not been the full 20 hours, but I wanted to demold them just before going to work just to see if they've worked out. So let's demold these little pendants that I got with the spare bits, and I think these would be great as like kids pendants. As I say, still slightly soft because it's not been a full 24 hours, but I just wanted to get this done before going to work and see what, if any, effects we've got. So these have turned out pretty cool, and that was just the spare resin. Quite like those for little sort of pendants. Now let's do the seahorses. So again, it's going to need some trimming up, but really happy with these little baby ones. And you can just see that blue iridescent powder coming through. When you demold these, be really careful with the tails and the nose, because that's the bit that's likely to break if any does. Hopefully it won't. I don't know how I've done that, but it's gone all the way through. Those two are kind of joined together. But loving the detail in that mould as always. And again, it's going to take a little bit of finesse, I think, and trimming up. But they are absolutely lovely, and I've got plans for these. So now for the main event, the frog. And I'm going to be really careful on this one because I think these toes will still be a little bit soft, but we shall see. So just going around all the toes before I demold, because if any bits are likely to snap off, and touch wood, I haven't had any snap yet, but it's likely to be the toes because they're the thinnest part. And so these take a little bit of finesse to unmold these frogs. But I'm just hoping I've got a bit of a cool results, touch wood. There we go. And I just go around the whole thing around the edge just to loosen it up. And then I'll start at the back and come forward. So here we go. Do we think this guy has turned out well? Well, we're going to find out one way or another. There we go. And that is those bits. And now for the head. So they do take a little, oh, there we go. So he is out. And the moment of truth. Wow. I absolutely love that. I like where the odd bit of it's dripped through, but the rest hasn't. So there we go. The blue iridescent frog with those natural gemstones, and I really like how they came out, and the fact there's no bubbles in there. The eyes, I could have gone a size bigger, I think, which I'll know for next time, but absolutely love this guy. I think the colours, they work, and again, for me, those natural unpolished sort of gemstones in there look really cool. So let me know what you think in comments. Do you like him? And it's my first white frog as well, by using that white and blue iridescent powder. So yeah, really happy with him. Let me know what you think in comments, and if you've liked the content, do me a favour, like and subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next one.